It's Monday, and you know what that means. The Jersey First Television Network probably brings to you the latest edition of Real Talk, and certainly I am the generational talent in Garden State Media and your leader for trustworthy opinion journalism. That's right, folks. It is I, the sworn enemy of all the local social justice clowns, the woke fools, and all the identity hysterics in Hudson County and throughout New Jersey. That's right. It's me, Fernando Uribe. Happy Monday. Happy Championship Monday for everybody. Rocking my Furia Roja. Yes, folks, I do have Spanish blood. Contrary to what anyone wants to think. Yes, maternal grandfather was born in España. So I'm celebrating today as Spain are your 2026 FIFA World Cup champions. If everybody got to watch a fantastic final yesterday, emanating from, that dump over there in East Rutherford, that penitentiary-looking building there called MetLife Stadium. Folks, an emotional and exciting World Cup final. Definitely worth watching, and definitely congratulations to España, La Furia Roja, here on Jersey First TV. And I want to thank you all again for choosing to spend your Monday afternoon and early evening with us here and tune in from wherever and however you may be doing so live here on Jersey First websites, of course, and all our social media platforms. Ladies and gentlemen, it takes 5 seconds to show your support for fearless independent journalism. That's right. That's what you get here with Real Talk via Jersey First TV. And if you're not done so already, again, 5 seconds is all it takes to like, comment, and share today's episode here on the program. Of course, make sure you like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram and X. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can check out brand new episodes of Real Talk every week, and certainly brand new episodes of Bridging the Gap with Zachary Dora and Tyler Simpson, which premiere every Thursday on Jersey First TV, folks. And also, whether you get your podcast on Spotify or SoundCloud, download Jersey First, favorite it. And whether you're driving down to Tiki Mondays down in Point Pleasant, or coming back from Tiki Mondays, or just walking your dog, doing grocery shopping, whatever it is you're doing, folks, you have your smartphone with you. Trust me, take Jersey First with you anywhere at any time. And I can't say it enough, here leading the way with fearless independent journalism. That's right, folks. It's Jersey First TV here, always educating and advocating for residents here in our great state. As we're being taxed to death, as we're paying the highest property taxes in the country, we're fighting for you and talk about the issues that matter most to you, the things you talk about at your kitchen table. Not identity bullshit, not the woke bullshit, but real issues that matter to everyday New Jerseyans. That's what we talk about here on Jersey First TV. Folks, you want to stick around for final thoughts? I have a lot to say about the usual bad characters here in New Jersey, whether it's in academia, some of the horrible elected officials, activists, atrocious journalists, you name it, folks. There's never a shortage of bad actors here in New Jersey. And folks, we do that every week on Jersey First TV. Of course, we'll talk about one specific journalist. Yes, we'll talk about, as you know, Maxi Pizarro from Insider NJ. In his latest column, just kind of makes you shake your head at this retard, but it's what we've come to expect from Max Pizarro and Insider NJ. We'll also talk about a guy who, let's be honest, I'm happy to see go to jail, hopefully. Frank Alonso, as you all know, last week it was reported that he was finally arrested for, and we'll talk about what he's arrested for. Again, everyone's entitled to due process, innocent until proven guilty. But let's be honest, I mean, you're 59 years old, shit. You look at your fucking 79. Who the fuck you lying to, Frank? But nevertheless, we'll talk about his arrest and hopefully his incarceration, where I think Frank Alonso will enjoy the color orange, since he'll probably be wearing that for quite some time. More on that during final thoughts. And we'll also talk about the exciting Fanatics Fest this past weekend, folks, at the Jacob Javits Center. Yes, representing there during Fanatics Fest weekend, and 4 great days, and a lot to do, a lot to talk about. That great experience. If you're a WWE fan like I am, well, or the NFL, MLB, you name it, there was something for everybody this past weekend at the Javits Center for Fanatics Fest. More on that later during a special comment. Folks, we talk about it all the time here on this show, and we talk about, obviously, 6 years and counting. Who would have thought it? I know I did. Many haters did not. But regardless, 6 years and counting here with Real Talk, bringing you the best analysis and commentary about everything going on in New Jersey politics and more. That's right, folks. The leader in independent media, fearless independent journalism, as a matter of fact. We bring it to you here every week, 6 years and counting, with Real Talk via Jersey First TV. It's always good to mix it up here. I talked to a lot of elected officials here in New Jersey, activists, candidates, but it's always good to talk to journalists. What's going on in today's journalism climate? And you know what? who better to talk about that with than a fellow member of Cowboys Nation and a fellow fan of the Tribal Chief. He is the distinguished editor-in-chief and the founder of HudPost. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that website, HudPost. You know what it's all about. He's James de los Santos. Join us live right now on Real Talk. James, how are you, brother?
Hey there. Thanks for having me on.
Good to see you on here, man. And aren't we happy with the Tribal Chief, the head of the table, the only true champion? Aren't we happy about Roman Reigns dominating this weekend, brother?
Oh yeah, for sure. The only person I say that got that he has competition is Obafemi. That's the only other person.
Listen, that could be something to watch out for, right?
Yes.
Maybe WrestleMania 43 next year in Saudi Arabia. We'll see. But listen, the sky's the limit for Obafemi. We'll find out what happens at SummerSlam. A little bit more later about SummerSlam here in the broadcast. But James, good to talk to you, man. Good to have you back in Jersey. I know you were all the way down south, and good to have you back here in Hudson County, obviously, breathing not as clean air, obviously, as we all know this past weekend. But it's good to have you back on here, man. But for everybody at home that's not familiar with HudPost and the origins of the site, and again, I don't want to speak for you, but there was a perception for quite some time that HudPost was a community-based news site. Obviously, I think some people kind of embellished it in the sense of like, well, it was nothing more than a glorified World Stars or TMZ, which was not the case at all, because you were reporting on issues in the community, breaking news. But in recent years, it seems like you've taken a turn into becoming much more news-centric. So first of all, what was your epiphany in creating HudPost? And then the transition into, was it a discussion, or was it just like a bold move to become much more news-centric in a time where we don't have print newspapers anymore? There's a lot of digital media. Tell us about it.
Sure. So when I first started HudPost, it was a hobby just to inform my neighbors. So things that were happening in the neighborhood, small business owners, and we were just having fun doing hobby work, using video cameras in the really early stages of social media before the influencers kind of took over Instagram and TikTok and all that. And it grew naturally. It wasn't something that we were intentional about saying, hey, we want to be the #1 news in the area. We were just creating a media platform to create more of a community feel and more of a thing that could bind us all together as a community. The epiphany was when the Jersey Journal closed down, kind of left a vacuum in Hudson County, and we were, during the closing of their office was February 1st, and that's actually our anniversary. So as they were closing down their offices, we were celebrating our 9th year anniversary. So around that time, I told the team, hey, we have a big opportunity to step in and actually be the #1 platform in the county, not only for the masses and for what you would say would be like the World Star crowd, but also the leaders and nonprofits and all the dignitaries in the area. And now we've had a mesh where now on the same platform, you could have a Dos Amigos video next to a Mayor Solomon interview next to a funny meme, and everyone, is embracing that.
Absolutely. Listen, certainly a little something for everybody, right? When it comes to coverage in the community. And listen, I suspect you're probably going to take the high road here. I don't have to because I don't like to. But, nobody was crying for the Jersey Journal going out of business, especially knowing that Ron Zentlinger was out of work. I mean, that clown did it to himself. But I think, to be fair, though, James, it seems like what happened to the Jersey Journal isn't just exclusive to that news site. I mean, we saw it happen to the Star Ledger. We've seen it happen to a lot of print newspapers, the Bergen Record. And I would argue that it's one thing to cover news, right, man? But I think that what you saw with the Jersey Journal, this is my opinion, you can tell me if I'm wrong or not, but what I saw with the Jersey Journal was now becoming so overly partisan that the editorial was even coming out in the news coverage. Like, case in point, like, you're reporting on what's going on with the Jersey City budget, more on that in a minute, but you're reporting on the logistics of it, very much like the Hudson County View does, the Jersey Times, the Tap Intos, the Patches, even the Hudson County Chronicles. Like, there's a way to report news, but then you're also editorializing the news as well. And I think that's what Ron Zentlinger and Terry West and the others at the Jersey Journal. There was this other guy that used to piss me off too. I forgot what his name. Slim. I don't remember what his name was, but it'll come to me. But Joshua something. But Josh Rosario. There you go. And it seemed like the Jersey Journal was doing it to it was almost like self-inflicted, where you spent over 100 years being the news source here in Hudson County, and all of a sudden, like, you're editorializing every bit of news. I think it's almost like, again, it's self-inflicted wound, or I could be wrong. What do you think?
I think it was a mixture of both. So I do see that they were editorializing, like, point in case, HudPost was the one to release the information about Amy DeGeese during her hit and run incident. And when you saw the coverage of Jersey Journal, they were trying to really like use that as a way to sell newspapers, putting cartoons on the front. Very like, I felt like they were losing their journalistic integrity at that time. And I feel like they were losing fans at the same time, where people are just not picking up newspapers. That's also another. And also, they didn't lean into their name familiarity. So their Twitter account had 40,000 followers the first day they created a Twitter account. And then they didn't use social media anytime after that. And when they did, they didn't use it effective. So I feel like, you can build up your name to 158 years, but if you don't evolve with the times, which I think exactly happened with them, especially online, and then having that partnership with NJ.com where you're not really owning your domain, it put them in a bad situation, on top of having an overhead of a downtown office, Journal Square. I think that's also, it also hurts.
Absolutely. I think you nailed it on there. And I'll even add one more caveat, I think, as well. I think you started seeing the public losing faith. I think you also started seeing elected officials who relied on the Jersey Journal for decades to actually accurately report the news. And, case in point, and this is a little personal to me because I know him, but let's be honest about what happened at New Jersey University. Obviously, we know it's now Kane, Jersey City. But before the transition, we're talking about a few years ago, there was a lot of disarray with NJCU. The former president was nearly driving, the university into the ground, almost into bankruptcy. And the editor, and again, I hate to pick on Uncle Ronnie, but, Ron Zendlinger never held this woman to account. And here comes Andres Acebo, young Cuban guy from Union City, right? Went to Brown, right? Went to, I believe, Seton Hall Law. And, or Rutgers Law. He might hate me for not remembering. But the point is that here's a local guy who was named into that position. And the Jersey Journal took every liberty possible to go after him when, let's be honest, what Andres Acebo did at NJCU was nothing short of spectacular in terms of rescuing it from bankruptcy, about trying to expand its reach in the area. And I get it that, higher education, we'll get into that a little bit later, but higher education, obviously, it has become more of a business. If enrollment's down, if fees are up, whatever the case may be. And NJCU is one of many universities that this happens to. But at no point in time was the Jersey Journal ever giving someone like Andres Acebo any credit for rescuing it from the red and moving it into the black, where it was actually increasing enrollment, where it was actually making it easier, especially during COVID, to have students try to finish their degrees online. And I think it's that sort of partisanship. I mean, again, listen, I'm never one to call race, but how ironic that a white editor never criticized a white, university president. Here comes this, Cuban guy, and, all hell breaks loose. So, again, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but it just seemed like that's one of many examples, James, where the Jersey Journal wasn't doing their due diligence. And quite frankly, like, that doomed them.
Yeah, I think that touches upon another kind of philosophy I have here, especially when we do news and who we bring on, is that everyone here on the team is from Hudson County, born, raised, went to school, lives, or currently lives in Hudson County. So I think that what you're saying about like the white editor and the white president, and then the Cuban president comes in, I think that's a big thing about being part of the culture rather than reporting on the culture and reporting on the community. So I think that's something that we at HudPost are doing, is that we are part of the community, not only reporting on it. So we're accountable to the people that we're out there with. Willie, who does a lot of our lifestyle videos, he lives in the town, so you will see him walk down Burger Line. So these are things that we're accountable to the people. I can't tell you, the staff where Jersey Journal was from or
Sure.
where they lived. But what I'm saying is that's what we're able to do is gather the strength of our community to report on it and tell our own stories rather than to allow others.
Absolutely. Folks, it's 5:15 here on the East Coast. If you're just joining us live right now, my guest right here, questions or comments, drop them there in the comments section from wherever you're tuning in, whether on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, X, wherever you name it, folks. Drop a comment there or a question for tonight's guest. He is the distinguished editor-in-chief and the founder of HudPost, fellow member of Cowboy Nation, and a fellow member of, really, we're part of the table with the head of the table, Roman Reigns. It's James De Los Santos joins us live here on Real Talk. Folks, this week's edition of Real Talk is brought to you by Duran Entities.
Duran Entities has now joined Real Talk with Fernando Uribe and Fernando Uribe Media. Enjoy delicious food, excellent watch parties, and a wonderful atmosphere at any of our 3 incredible restaurants. Son Cubano, located at 40-4 Riverwalk Place in West New York, New Jersey. Ventanas at the Modern, located at 200 Park Avenue in Fort Lee, New Jersey. And Solas, located at 25 River Drive South in downtown Jersey City. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you there.
Yep, that's right, folks. Real Talk, proud to partner with Duran Entities, our sponsors here on Jersey First TV. James, so let's get to some news here with HudPost, and obviously tragic story. Union City man killed last week involving a sanitation truck. And I'll just sort of read some specs here, but 22-year-old Union City man was killed in a crash involving a sanitation truck and an electric scooter early last week, according to Hudson County Prosecutor Wayne Mello. The Hudson County Regional Collision Investigation Unit and the Union City Police Department are investigating the fatal crash, which occurred on the early hours of Wednesday, July 15th. According to authorities, at 3:30 in the morning, the Union City Police Department was notified of a collision involving a sanitation truck and an electric scooter. Responding officers found the operator of the scooter, later identified as Mauricio Rodriguez, 22 years of age, of Union City, with serious injuries. He was pronounced dead later at the scene a short time later. The crash is being investigated by the Hudson County Regional Collision Investigating Unit with assistance, once again, from the Union City Police Department. My condolences go out to the family of Mauricio Rodriguez. Hopefully they find some peace during this difficult time. James, what can you tell us about this? What are you hearing about this incident? Again, it's sort of just the words electric scooter are going to evoke some conversation and debate, I would guess.
Yeah, I know. There's a big debate on using scooters, electric scooters, banning them, whether they're safe for Hudson County area. What I was able to receive is the press releases come out. They say that there was a accident involving sanitation. What we're able to do is actually get in touch with the family and see what their point of view was, the type of man he was, and what he was going to. He was going to work. So, it's just a tragedy. And there's not much detail to speak about there. I know, sure, there's an investigation, especially since it's sanitation, and I'm sure that we'll get more information on that soon.
James, again, electric scooters right now are generating a tremendous debate. We've seen new regulations go into effect this month here coming from Trenton. Residents have been writing to legislators all throughout 21 counties about the presence of electric scooters. And certainly, listen, I'm sure the concerns are different in parts of Warren County and Morris County as compared to Hudson and Bergen County collectively. But here you see it all the time, man, whether it's on Central Avenue in Jersey City in the Heights, whether it's up by me in Northern Hudson County along Bergen Line Avenue, along Boulevard East. I mean, it's getting to a point, man, where I understand that, we're living in a very fast-paced area, especially when it comes to, let's say, the food deliveries and everything else. Electric scooters have become a way of life, but I mean, it's not riding your bicycle anymore. I mean, we're talking about, you get hit with an electric scooter, we're talking about 25, 30 miles an hour. I mean, we're talking about some serious damage. Never mind to your car. We're talking about maybe some serious injuries that people are being afflicted with. And it's tragic about what happened with Mauricio. I mean, it's my understanding that he was probably going to work at that hour. People probably wonder, what's he doing out at 3:30 in the morning? It's my understanding this young man was off to work to provide for his family. So it's tragic without question. But at what point do we try to balance out public safety and the fact that some of these electric scooters and cyclists in general, some look at it as a nuisance on the roads, man?
Well, I empathize with that. Also empathize with the fact that many people can't afford vehicles or afford to have a car in Hudson County just due to even parking. And a lot of these people are doing Uber Eats and delivery. And like history repeats itself. I don't know if you remember back in 2005, there were these mini motorcycles that everyone was using, and those were being banned off the road. So I think there just needs to be a better emphasis on street safety and road safety in Hudson County, whether it's the county roads like Kennedy Boulevard, whether it's the state roads like 1 and 9, or whether it's the Jersey City roads like Central Avenue. There's a police station right there. So the fact that there's wheelies being pop wheelies down Central Avenue in front of the police station, I think says a lot about the way that policing is enforced or the way that we're enforcing street safety nowadays. I know if you talk to old timers, they'll talk about walking the beat and, where cops used to actually walk down the street to see safety and to talk to engage the community. Now, not, there are cops are great. So I don't want to say this as a hit, but you will see cops sitting in a car on their cell phones, not being proactive in safety rather than reactive. Okay, you ran a red light, now let's get them. Rather than being a proactive, riding around, being seen in the community. If there's a cop car on Kennedy Boulevard, you're less likely to see cars going 60 miles an hour when they see a cop car there. Just the presence alone, never mind to actually have proactive patrolling of the streets or having different ways of, all right, how are we going to make sure, all right, car flips always happen on 32nd Street and Kennedy Boulevard. I think there's an emphasis that we should put there. But I think that also comes down to politics, which is I guess the worst part about governance is the politics part, because if all the mayors would work together and there wasn't a fight over who's the sheriff and whose roads get to protect what, Kennedy Boulevard could be a safe place to drive down, or Tunnelly Avenue could be a place to drive and not be a death trap. But I think that takes a lot of political players that don't like each other to work together.
Listen, fair enough there. Certainly, I think that if governance at a local level could come together on something like this, you're right. Whether it's walking the beat, listen, where I live in Union City, I know my mayor is also my state senator. I mean, he does a good job when it comes to that. You do see cops walking the beat. I do see it in nearby Weehawken as well, and in West New York, but not every town's the same. And again, whether it's manpower, whether it's resources, you name it, I think it'd be great if there was at least a consensus about how to address this, especially when we see so many scooters, whether it's on Central Avenue in Jersey City, whether it's in downtown on, Kennedy Boulevard, or going down Columbus Drive, or Marin Boulevard, right, downtown, or even Park Avenue in Weehawken, Hoboken. It'd be nice to see some consensus for sure. So definitely a good point on that one. Another story caught my eye, and obviously to your point about having a healthy mix with HudPost, certainly not just doing news, but also like awareness campaigns. And we saw that last week. And a shout out to Adam San Miguel, fellow Cowboy fan too, by the way, like you and I, the owner of Cortaditos, who obviously super proud of Adam. What we've seen Cortaditos really become in the last few years. I mean, from a small shop in Union City to now seeing it at the American Dream Mall, seen it now right across from the PATH train in Harrison on Frank Rogers Boulevard. We've seen it also in Belleville. But, one of the other ones, obviously in North Bergen recently was, unfortunately, a burn due to a fire. And I think that, when we don't see local news sites just focusing on politics and news, it's easy for stuff like this to get lost in the shuffle. But, credit to Adam and the staff at Cortaditos raising awareness for the family that lives upstairs from the storefront in North Bergen, because sometimes we forget, a building burned down, or a building or a business got burned. It's going to take some time to rebuild and everything. But sometimes we forget about the families that live above some of these businesses, and it's easy to forget that. I know you covered that, obviously, with HudPost. Tell us more about how that campaign's going for helping that family.
Sure. So, when the fire happened, and I found that was Cortaditos. One, it's a love coffee shop in North Bergen. So I wanted to make sure that when we covered it, it wasn't just a coverage of here's another fire in Bergerline Avenue. So we did meet up with Adam, and he was able to tell us that, that the family was safe upstairs and that his employees were safe. and then also speak to the community to see what what that place meant to them. And then Adam started a GoFundMe for the family upstairs, and I think that's just a beautiful thing for him to do, to say, hey, you know what, I can use my platform and all the eyes on my business at the moment to create some positivity for people who are less fortunate.
Yeah, definitely a good job by Adam, San Miguel, and the entire staff there at Cortaditos for, again, raising awareness. And, as you mentioned, certainly it's that variety and the diversity really in the news coverage, right? Again, not just about politics and everything going on, which kind of makes people turned off to politics. It's about community-based news, which I think is equally, if not more important, to keep the community engaged. Let's move a little south from North Bergen into your neck of the woods, Jersey City, and you're back here. You're a Jersey City resident, and as we all know, Jersey City has been in the headlines for not just weeks, but months with what's going on with the budget. Certainly during the last election cycle, a lot has been said about what happened during that mayor's race. Jim McGreevey running against James Solomon in the runoff warned residents about an impending budget shortfall. And some residents said, oh, that's just Jim being hyperbolic and scare tactics. And, James Solomon, then candidate Solomon, Councilman Solomon, raised concerns, obviously, about what was going on with the budget in Jersey City. He takes office, and we start seeing this explosion of information, James. And obviously, in the last few months, we've seen what's happened with the exact number. The blame game that's been tossed around depends on how you want to phrase it. Some people look at blaming Stephen Fulop as a good strategy, as a realistic one, because it's truthful. Some others say, well, that's deflection. Again, maybe it's subjective. But regardless, in the last few weeks and months, Mayor Solomon walked into office with enormous political capital. He had a 9-0 sweep of the council. So pretty much people were thinking, hey, he's going to be able to do whatever he wants. Not necessarily a rubber stamp, but he's going to have enormous support on the council for his agenda. And in just a few weeks, it seems like Jersey residents, homeowners, renters are up in arms about what's going on with not just, the money coming from Trenton, but a potential tax hike. Tell us about not just you. Obviously you're living in Jersey City once again, but talking to people, you've been reporting on this. What are you hearing about the disenchantment that maybe some residents have with Solomon and some of the council people?
Well, I'm just happy that I signed my lease prior to that announcement. So but what I'm hearing is, I guess from my opinion, I'm thinking that the 0-9 vote, I don't believe is actually the council turning against Solomon. I think that's a strategic way of presenting this, the way to fill the budget gap, and then showing people, hey, this is the real way to do it. And then they're going to vote no to allow that the actual budget, when they're going to have to start laying off people and cutting services due to the actual deficit. I think that's their strategy there.
What are you hearing about potential recall demands, right? We keep hearing some residents are upset. Listen, if they recall, Councilman Joel Brooks in Ward B, I'm not going to complain. I don't like that asshole, for much of a better word. But it seems like a lot of residents are upset, whether it's in the downtown section, the south side, the Heights, Journal Square. Realistically, James, when you look at what's been going on, there's a discrepancy about, well, this is what's coming from Trenton. This is what the Sherrill administration is advising, the city to propose as a tax hike. Those numbers have been fluctuating a little bit the last few weeks. The council meetings, as a WWE fan, I'd like some of these people going up to the mic and cutting promos here. It's very WWE-like. We saw that last week. Obviously, it was a capacity crowd in the council chambers. Again, what are you hearing from residents that reach out to you, look at you and HudPost as a resource to be like, hey, man, we need more noise made to call out, what we think is bad behavior or bad fiscal behavior in Jersey City? What's been your response to people, or what do you suggest?
Yeah, what I will say is, like, prior to, before we got on the show, we were talking about how a lot of residents they want to say things, they want to bring up solutions, but they're not actually informed. And that's what I'm trying to do, make sure I bring forward the information. But I'll give you an example. Solomon released his point plans of cutting certain services and changing certain times to cut down the expenses of the government. And then when he proposes a 15% instead of a 20% hike, all the comments and people writing in are talking about that he should cut certain services and shorten times of certain services. So it's funny to hear people's solutions actually be the solutions that were already implemented. So I don't think people, when you hear $250 million deficit, I don't think many people can even grasp what that means in their mind. I think after a certain number, numbers are just numbers, whether you said 100 million or 250, in a lot of people's heads, those numbers are might as well be the same because they're out of reach for them, for the
No,
average person.
absolutely, absolutely. And listen, I mean, I want James Solomon to succeed. Like I said that to him, on the night of his inauguration at the after party at White Eagle Hall. I waited my moment, went to the bar, and I talked to him for like a good 10, 15 minutes. And, James, I've interviewed James before, and he and I don't see eye to eye on a lot ideologically. And, I'm not the most popular person in his office, whether it's his chief of staff or other people. But listen, he's always been a gentleman to me. I said right to his face, I'm like, listen, I want you to succeed. I frequent Jersey City a lot. I contribute to its economy and nightlife and everything else. I want to see Jersey City prosper. Certainly, I'm concerned, man. As I'm sure you are, when you're driving through Journal Square, it looks like you're driving through Gotham City. It looks like you're driving through an episode of Gotham, the television series, or the Dark Knight Rises trilogy. Like, you don't recognize Journal Square. You don't recognize a lot of Jersey City anymore because of development. So, he's got a big task on his hands. And I said to him, like, listen, I'll be fair to you in the future. Come on the show. We shook hands. He'll come on. We're trying to, coordinate a time. But, what has been your, extent of your conversations with the mayor in terms of the coverage? And does he feel maybe you've been unfair or HudPost has been unfair? Because let's be honest. I mean, there's been some news coverage of Jersey City and the mayor currently from different news sites that maybe haven't always been favorable. What have, again, not divulging too much personal information here, but what's the extent of your conversations with the mayor and what you should be doing or should not be doing when it comes to coverage?
Solomon came in, he was pretty an advocate for HudPost and has been. So I think we have a good relationship. He understands that we're here to provide information to the residents of Jersey City. And they've leaned into it. They've invited us to the press conference, bringing us to their media days, informing us when they are going to do the tax increase introduction or different bills. So I see that they see us as a resource, and it's been working out pretty well. I think that for the most part, all the government leaders in Hudson County have been really respectful of our coverage and understanding that sometimes not everything is going to be positive. That's not to say that I haven't gotten some bad calls or some mean text messages, but for the most part, everyone understands that what we're doing is providing news and we're not skewing the news. And I think that's been a big bonus for us, or a big help for us to become that local platform, is that everyone knows that whether my personal relationship with one leader or another leader, that's never going to reflect what the coverage is. The coverage is always going to be based in truth, facts, and very straightforward, and no opinions.
It's interesting when you mentioned about coverage. I mean, really, 10 years flies by, right? I mean, I remember interviewing you years ago too, on one of my, original podcasts. And, you originated in North Bergen. You probably were not the most favorite person in North Bergen Town Hall. I think I've replaced you as that. I think I've taken that title now as least favorite person in the township of North Bergen. But, really, again, it's interesting how the years change. And, there was a time when the administration in North Bergen didn't look very kindly upon you or the coverage about the township itself. And, years later, here you are, right? You're getting a proclamation inside the council chambers in North Bergen Town Hall. Who would have thought that 10 plus years ago, right? When you started HudPost. And, North Bergen's an interesting town though, man, right? Where obviously the mayor, and again, shout out to him, fellow member of Cowboys Nation too, the mayor, Nick Sacco there. But obviously it was announced, it was first, news broke with the New Jersey Globe some months ago that he would not be obviously running for another term next year when the mayoral election is up in May of 2027. There's been some shifting around, seeing of, all right, who's, maybe some positioning who wants to run. It's obviously a commissioner form of government in North Bergen, as opposed to like what's in Jersey City or Hoboken. It's a mayor council form. Obviously, we've seen the name Hugo Cabrera come up as a potential successor to Mayor Sacco. We know that for health reasons, he's looking to step away from politics. We'll see what happens. Take us through that journey, right? Where, you weren't, almost at times you were vilified in North Bergen by the administration, to now being, I would say, more embraced, certainly. And now, where do you see North Bergen politics moving, since we're going to be seeing a transition away from Mayor Sacco?
Sure. Yeah. Well, North Bergen's where I was raised. I was born in Jersey City, raised in North Bergen, went to North Bergen High School. So I think the vilification or the enemy status that came with that was because I was so known in the community and grew up in the community that they didn't know what bucket to put me in. Are you an enemy of ours, or who are you backed by? And I don't think they were used to seeing someone who's just, they love their community and we're trying to build something that didn't have to do with getting a political job or getting public housing or getting any benefit from it, rather than just being a community source. That journey obviously has been fun, and as we opened up to other cities and covering Union City, West New York, Gothenburg, and other cities embracing us, I think North Bergen started to understand our status as a news publication and still stop seeing us less on a personal level, because they've seen me grow up. They've seen me, since I was in high school playing football and rec programs. So I think that was the journey there. As far as the future, I did write an article about Hugo Cabrera being the only person on the camp that actually has the political capital at the moment to be able to run for mayor.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. I think his political capital is pretty much on the rise. God help us if Anthony Veneri runs for mayor and becomes mayor. Jesus. You'll take the high road here. I'll shit myself, because I'll be like, oh my God, North Bergen might go down the tubes with Anthony, but that's just my opinion. So, but in any event, another name that has been in North Bergen politics for some time, ironically, he is the assemblyman that represents that region of the 33rd legislative district, and that's Larry Weinstein. And we know that he has been a thorn in North Bergen politics for some time for the administration. We know the ongoing feud between Mayor Stack and Mayor Sacco for over 20 years now, actually over 25 years, as a matter of fact. And it seems that, Mayor Stack continues to outlast a lot of his enemies in North Bergen or in parts of North Hudson, as he's almost become really the kingmaker here in Hudson County. We've seen his influence and his support only grow. We saw it last year during for the first time without county lines. We saw primaries during those legislative races, right? All 80 state assembly seats were up for grabs last year. We saw that in the 33rd legislative district, the incumbents at the time, we saw Gabriel Rodriguez, who was an incumbent, and then State Senator Stack named Larry Weinstein as a candidate on that ticket, handily defeating Tony Hector, the slumlord, and Frank Alonso. More on him in a minute. In a very decisive assembly race last year. And certainly there are whispers, James, that Larry Weinstein's political capital is pretty high. Obviously, he cannot run for the mayor's seat next year unless he steps down from the assembly. Obviously, that's not going to be possible for him to hold two offices if he should go on to win. What are you hearing about Larry in North Bergen? Obviously, with having State Senator Stack on his side, really endorsing him, encouraging him, getting the ground game, knocking on doors. The mobilization certainly is going to work in Larry's favor. It worked last year during the assembly primary. What are you hearing about Larry's chances in North Bergen? Even with Hugo Cabrera, who, as you mentioned, has enormous political capital right now. What do you see? Could you see a showdown between Larry Weinstein and Hugo Cabrera next May?
You would think that I have a little bit more insight, because I've been, friends with Larry for many years. From what I hear, that he is running, and that would put down the showdown between Hugo and him. And I think that's going to be some interesting news or interesting coverage, because for the last 15 years or so, Larry's angle has been about Nick Sacco. So now a new person's coming in, and now the the language of the campaign needs to change. So it'd be interesting to see if Hugo and Larry can come to, a gentleman's agreement, because, like you said, stepping down from the assembly, now you're going to have to find another person to fill that seat. And
also, too, I mean, the fact that it's not just all 80 state assembly seats next year, all 40 state senate seats. So State Senator Stack obviously has to be concerned about his own reelection, which I think he'll be fine unless, I don't know, mysteriously, Leonard Filipowski beats these charges in criminal court and maybe starts being a nuisance again. More on him in a minute. But obviously, State Senator Stack has to worry about his own reelection campaign, finding another suitable assembly candidate. That could be difficult in a time where sometimes, individuals are kind of turned off in running for office. It's a toxic climate sometimes. It's very demanding. And you know that when you're working with State Senator Stack, you can't be a slacker, man. You got to put in the hours. You have to be accessible to the community and constituents. So whether Larry decides to run or not, that seat's going to remain one that's going to be hotly contested and also hotly, I would argue, accessible, because you want people that are going to be, accountable to the community, meeting with constituents, not just, picking up a phone every 4 years or every 2 years. I mean, that's not the case. That's not what you see with State Senator Stack. You see accessibility all the time. You see it from other, the rest of the assembly candidates. But, right now, if it's Larry, I mean, again, we're less than a year out, but if it's Larry and Hugo, I mean, obviously the challenge Larry's going to have is he has to find 4 commissioner candidates to run with him. Obviously, Hugo's going to be running. We're not sure who else within the commissioner slate in North Bergen will want to run. You got to believe probably if Anthony Veneri is smart, he's not going to run for mayor. It kind of splits that ticket with Hugo. But maybe that's what Larry's hoping for. How do you see that chess game materializing?
I don't see the fracture in the North Bergen side. I do see if they are going to put all their marbles behind Hugo, I think that's going to be it. I think everyone in North Bergen, within the government and within, these positions, understand that Larry can come in here and win potentially. So I think that they're all good. They think about it strategically, like, hey, let's get behind the right person, especially since, the announcement did come out that Nick Sacco is not going to run. So it's not like it's a sudden change where there was a vacuum. I'm pretty sure Nick is leaving with his choices and his wishes intact.
James, another issue I know that's been in the news cycle. I know you've covered it. Other sites in Hudson County have covered it, as well as myself on this show, is overdevelopment. And I don't even recognize Northern Hudson County from 10 years ago, maybe 20 years ago. We've seen development just on steroids in recent decades. And I get it. Listen, it's prime real estate, whether it's being by the water, whether it's being on Kennedy Boulevard, Park Avenue, Tunnelly, wherever. I mean, being accessible to New York City, to the light rail system, if it ever gets really finished, it almost sells itself. But it's also, it's almost selling people out as well, like lifelong residents that maybe can't afford to stay here. And I talk about it on this show all the time. We have the highest property taxes in the country here in New Jersey. We keep seeing taxes go up, whether it's taxes coming from Trenton. We see the tolls on the Turnpike and the Parkway going up again. And in fairness, that goes back to Chris Christie, but it's still a Democrat-controlled legislature for 20 years. So, people want to blame Republicans for why their life sucks. I mean, Republicans have nothing to do with why it does in New Jersey. It's just that simple. Or we're seeing also, fees going up every which way. I mean, it's almost hard to put the genie back in the bottle, but what are you hearing from residents that reach out to you about, hey, we need more coverage about this? Landlords are getting away with murder, or we're not seeing more rent freezes or rent stabilizations. What are you hearing from residents about, quite frankly, a problem that isn't going away anytime soon?
Yeah, I think we're hearing two different distinct reactions to that. One is, hey, since we have all this development, there should be a lot more resources and funds coming into the cities. But they're not understanding that there's the pilot program where we're practically giving away land for free and having them pay in lieu of the taxes. and those taxes aren't being siphoned back into the Board of Education program. So I think a lot of people are seeing that in Jersey City, where they're like, hey, we have all these high rises. Why do we have a deficit? And Solomon has to come back and say, hey, because Jersey City signed a contract for 30 years saying these people don't have to pay the right amount of taxes. So I see that's one problem that people don't understand and would love to get more coverage on. And then I think the other one is that having more development helps housing. I think housing is a big issue about rent here. So the more options we give for those high luxury prices, now that the old luxuries are now more accessible to people that are middle class. So I think people are understanding the cycle of that either. The more housing you build, the more housing you're going to have for others. It actually lowers rent. And I think there was a study or data came out that Jersey City rent was shrinking at a faster rate than New York City's. And so I see there's, economics is not easy, or also wouldn't be a subject, in college or in degree.
Jersey City, parts of Hudson County are or have been forever now an attractive destination for people living in New York City or the boroughs, and much more affordable. That problem now, though, is filtering its way across the river to us, where rents are astronomical. I mean, I see buildings, a lot of these luxury rental buildings, like one bedroom, 3,500. I'm like, what? Like, it's just crazy. I get it. Maybe it has parking, laundry or a gym, and I don't know what it has. But my goodness, I mean, we're seeing so much development that lifelong residents, again, whether it's Jersey City, whether it's Hoboken, Weehawken, even Bayonne. I don't even recognize Bayonne anymore. And Bayonne used to be a town where people would say, well, if you can't live in Northern Hudson or Hoboken or Jersey City, well, move to Bayonne. That's affordable. That's not true anymore. We're seeing development just skyrocketing there as well when it comes to the land that's available there in the Peninsula City. But let me ask you this, because we talked about at the onset about the origins of HudPost and certainly its evolution. James, I think we can both meet in the middle on this one, where, again, it started as a social media site, and obviously it's become much more news centric. It's a news site here in Hudson County, but the longest time, man, I mean, there's a toxicity, right, when it comes to social media. I see it all the time, whether it's comments on my program, on my podcast, on my pages, whether it's, what's being printed out there in the news sites, or what's even being published on HudPost. And it almost seems like there's a part of me that I think is almost like the inside of you. It's like the mad scientist is like very happy with the engagement. And like, it doesn't take much to get people engaged, right? Case in point, when HudPost publishes, or when people send in videos about ICE agents, doing their job in enforcing federal immigration law, and we can debate, whether the tactics are good or not, and whether they need more training, which they do, and whether they should have body cams, which they should. It doesn't take much to get people riled up. And it's one thing to see, opinions differing on social media. There's almost a toxicity that happens a lot on social media pages and comments. And, I don't think the HudPost page is guilty of this. I think everybody has their comment section. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I don't think anybody gets more vilified on HudPost than me. Now, do I do it to be a villain? Of course I do. Of course I go on there and fucking comment, because guess what? I like the smoke. It's all right. I don't mind it. But there are some times, man, I think sometimes you even have to shake your head at some of the cringeworthy comments by people that are just downright nasty, classless. Like, I mean, sometimes, I think even you got to be like, holy shit, like, I like the engagement, but there's some fucking crazy people out there, man.
Yeah, I would say for a long time I read every single comment on every single post. Now I barely do, unless someone flags it down or someone tags HudPost directly. But there's so many comments, and I just stay away from it, because one, people are just throwing things against the wall to see if it sticks. Some people are commenting from fake accounts. I do get a lot of DMs and stuff like that. So, I do get feedback about a certain thing. Oh, you shouldn't have this comment. My philosophy is freedom of speech. If Instagram allows it, then it stays there. I've had, everything down from my own reporters to advertisers that want us to take down comments that are bad about them. But you could go through comments and see people talk directly about HudPost and directly about me. and they don't get deleted. I keep them up. I think it's important for dialogue, for people to be able to say what they want to say, and then have other people react the way they want to react. And I think that's the beautiful part of it. Because if we start to delete and start to monitor, then it would just become a filtering and kind of sugarcoating of what Hudson County is.
No,
I
absolutely.
tell my advertisers all the time, if I have a restaurant up and people are talking about the restaurant, oh, it's bad service, it's rude. I go, maybe you should read the comments and take it as feedback, because these are people in the community. These aren't just happening out of nowhere. So if people are giving their feedback about how they feel about things, take it. I've taken them about, my coverage. People thought that we put up too many memes at one time. All right, duly noted. Memes are supposed to be sparing and fun, not a overwhelming thing of our main feed.
No, absolutely. And listen, and to your point, I mean, like the bots or the people opining from fake pages or private pages, like, I mean, it's infuriating. I mean, I see it sometimes where I'm like, listen, I get it. People want their privacy, but like, I gotta believe you even have to shake your head sometimes at some of the stupidity here, right? Where people opining from private pages or people not, liking a diversity in thought. And to your point, listen, I commend you. Obviously, you're as much a champion for free speech as there is for anybody. But I think there's also a toxicity too, where it's not just exclusive to HudPost. I mean, I think any social media page suffers from this. Where, sure, I don't want to pick on some people from one political side, progressives, but it's like, well, yeah, you screw, you preach tolerance and I believe in accepting everybody. Bullshit. We both know, man, that sometimes it's like, oh, you're tolerant of what you like. When you hear stuff or read stuff that you don't like, here comes the character assassinations, the vilification, right? A case in point, I mean, I'm sure you see the comments sometimes. I laugh at like, oh, look at Fernando opining, a single guy that's not married with no kids. Oh, well, he must be gay or other character assassinations. I'm like, oh yeah, sure. Look at this guy commenting. Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, you're married to an ugly chick, and wow, is that a flex? Am I supposed to be fucking, cringing about that? Like, I'm good as a bachelor, James. I'm all right. Like, I don't have any wife or kids. I'm good with that. When I want to have both, I can do that. Now, which is interesting does that mean I'm gay? No. So wait a minute. Is being gay a bad thing now? So I'm always like, make a fucking decision, folks. Like, pick your insults wisely, or I don't know, stop being lazy. So it's stuff like that that's really toxic. And also, too, never mind about ICE posts, right? But I think also, too, about just people disagreeing, James. Do you think we could ever get back to some level of civility when it comes to this?
I think there's certain topics that are always going to be a dividing line. But I do see that there is a need for people to find common ground, which is what I do hope with HudPost, is that at the end of the day, we can disagree on how we feel about certain policies, about certain things that we do, but we could all come together and say that we're a Hudson County family and that we should be there for each other. Point in case, Cortadito's fire burns down, we help the family upstairs. We don't care whether Adam is a Republican or a Democrat. If something happens with a child that's hurt, we're there to help them. We're not worried about political, ideology there. So
absolutely, yeah. No, listen, it's a great approach for sure. Let me ask you this, because I think it certainly bears mentioning where, and I don't want you to sort of take sides per se, but every news site, whether it's on the national level, state level, or even at the local level, will preach that they're doing it right, or they're doing it better, or they're doing it in a way that's different from everybody else. I mean, really, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but what does HudPost do better than everybody else in the area? Because again, never mind the statewide NJ.com or NorthJersey.com via the Bergen Record, the Star Ledger, the New Jersey Monitor. Those are more statewide sites. I mean, they have their county, tabs, but here in Hudson County, since the end of the Hudson Reporter, the print edition, even though it just brought to my attention that the website is back up again. Interesting. Mm-hmm. But, we don't see the Jersey Journal anymore. We don't see, again, the Reporter in the print section we used to have on Saturdays. We've seen a rise in news sites. Obviously, for 10 years. It's been HudPost for over 12 years. We've had great stuff with the Hudson County View, with John Hines, its editor. We've seen in recent years the Jersey Times be more Jersey-centric. We've seen the TAPS, not just statewide, in almost every municipality, but we've seen it here in Hudson County. Steve Lennox does a good job in Jersey City, Hoboken, and in Bayonne. We've seen Hudson TV to some extent, obviously not as far-reaching, but Julio Reynoso and Jeff Henning do a good job there. Hoboken Girl does a good job with what she's doing. Obviously, there's no shortage of news opportunities here, but what does HudPost do better than everybody else in your mind?
I think in my mind, the number one thing that we do better is that we're authentic to Hudson County. So we don't have to try. We are from here. I was born and raised Hudson County. Everyone on the team is, like I said, born and raised, went to school or works or lives here. So we're not reporting on the community. We're part of the community. So it's not far-fetched to see us and know who we are and us to engage and for us to get more information, to be able to help out more organizations, to get more coverage for other people. So I think the number one thing that we do is that we're accessible. We're part of the community. We're in the community, and that we're just authentic. We don't take ourselves serious. We take the job serious. And we have a very strong emphasis, or I do, as the founder and editor, is, hey, our bias gets checked at the door. We don't lead people to how we feel about the situation. We give them facts. And that's something basic that you learn in journalism 101. Who, what, why, when, where, how. If you can answer that for me, you don't need to do anything else. So that's how I lead. A lot of my reporters now were not trained reporters. They're people that I was training, and I taught them how to go out and get the information they need. And now they go out there, people will go up to them to give them information now. They go to press conferences, congressmen, congresswomen, mayors, they come up to him. They want them to be seen on HudPost. So I think we've done a good job of connecting, being authentic, and then just being that platform for everybody. So whether you are on either a Republican, Democrat, whether you're a progressive, you're HCDO, whether you're a DSA or you're a MAGA, that gets checked at the door when it comes to facts and stories.
James, do you feel it gets fickle at times? Because at the end of the day, it's competition, right? Perfect example. We're pro wrestling fans, so I think you'll appreciate this comparison. Obviously, WWE is the major leagues. Obviously, if you're a pro wrestler trying to make it in the business, right? Case in point, Union City High School graduate Charles Gaston, otherwise known as Livewire Charlie on the independent scene, getting a WWE tryout coming up SummerSlam weekend in Minnesota. You love to hear stories like that about local kids making it, but it's competition. Obviously, it's WWE, and there's other companies. There's All Elite Wrestling, there's Major League Wrestling, there's TNA, Total Nonstop Action. There's other, AAA. There's other organizations that are in the same business, and maybe it gets a little fickle. There is a competition there. Do you feel there's a competition between yourself and everybody else in Hudson County that's reporting on news, that's trying to break the stories, that's going to council meetings, that's moderating debates, that's reporting on community-based incidents and everything else of that nature? Do you feel there's a competition, and do you worry about that?
The competition as far as the stories, those are not of concern. I think that having multiple media companies working on the same story and able to get different angles is actually a plus for the industry and for each other, because John Hines is reporting and Jersey City Time, Aaron Morrill's reporting. Those are helping me out as well, where my reporting can help them out. And I think that's strengthening all of each other. I think the competition comes down when it comes down to ad dollars. And I think that's really the main competition. I think the news itself, I think that industry itself is something that we're trying to keep alive and revive. And I don't think that's where we're cutting each other's throats behind over stories. John and me are known to call each other to go, hey, did you hear about this? Or did you get this? I'll send you this video. Sorry. So I think it comes down when it comes down to ad dollars. I think that's where the true competition actually comes down to, whether, how people feel about each other.
Fair enough. You mentioned about leaving your biases at the door as well as the staff. Obviously, we've gotten to know each other over the years.
Mhm.
Whether or not you've experienced your own evolution ideologically, maybe you were very progressive years ago, maybe you've moved more towards the center. I'm not going to try to, ask you to sort of lay out your ideology, but we're seeing in Hudson County, for example, in recent years, though, James, that, the Democrat Party has been going through its own evolution, right? Obviously, with the elimination of the county line, people feel more emboldened to run, not just for, mayoral seats, but legislative seats as well, county commissioner seats. We've seen in recent years, and not just on a statewide level in New Jersey, we've seen far left, Democratic socialists, some would call them radical left wingers with some radical platforms, maybe causing disruptions within the Democrat Party. Even here in Hudson County, we've seen moderate Democrats seeing now this influx of DSA candidates, of progressives being very loud and saying, well, Democrats are, too moderate, or they're too centrist, and we need bold change. And again, we've seen that, for example, just last year in the 32nd legislative district where you live, we saw the election of, LD 32 is arguably the most progressive far left district of all the 40 in New Jersey's legislature. But we saw the election of two really radical progressive left wingers in Ravi Bala. And, thankfully he's no longer mayor of Hoboken, as he almost fucked that town over for 8 years. But, we saw the election of him and Katie Brennan in LD 32. We've seen in just the past mayoral election in Jersey City, we saw two openly DSA candidates winning council seats there in Jersey City. We've seen progressives in Hoboken, for example, whether it's Phil Cohen or Joe Quintero winning re-election there. We've seen it, for example, in Bayonne. Where do you see the journey of the Democrat Party right now? Because, listen, 2 years ago, during that presidential cycle, we saw people voting in a way that was historic, number one. Number two, obviously here in New Jersey, the 45th president came within 4 points of winning New Jersey, which we had not seen since George H.W. Bush in 1988. But New Jersey remains essentially a very blue state. There are red sections, sure. It remains a very blue state, but it hasn't stopped Democrats or progressives or DSA members from saying, no, we need to fight back against Republicans or things of that nature, which, James, at the end of the day, Republicans have nothing to do with your property taxes in New Jersey. It has nothing to do with taxes going up or the tolls or the gas tax. Republicans don't control anything in New Jersey. But it hasn't stopped the narrative and messaging from DSA members or progressives from really advancing and winning seats, whether it's in the House, in nearby CD 11 or CD 12 or CD 8. Rob Menendez isn't a crazy progressive like others, but you see what I'm saying. Like, DSA members are on the rise. More moderate Democrats, I don't want to say are like in danger of going extinct, but where do you see the Democrat Party right now?
I see where I think it comes down to demographic. Downtown Jersey City, we see a lot of youthful and more left-wing voters, as compared to if you go up to either West New York and uptown North Bergen, you see a lot more conservative voters. So I think what you're seeing is just the boomer politicians are retiring, and now the millennials are stepping up, and the millennials are tending to be more left-leaning, and more progressive.
Absolutely. And I think that, to your point, the Democrat Party is showing that on a national level too, right? Because we're seeing sort of establishment, that, the operative class, has been very content with keeping certain moderate Democrats in power. And I think we're seeing progressives really acting up and openly winning seats. Where do you see this again, as we're going through 2026, we're entering 2027, obviously. Governor Sherrill's midterm election will be next year. We'll see legislative seats up for grabs. Certainly within 2 years, we'll have a new presidential election. Obviously, the 47th president will finish his 2 terms. We'll see, what Republicans and Democrats go through the primary process. But where do you see Hudson County and New Jersey moving towards? Because, again, there are still sections that are red. There are still sections that are blue. And there's some sections that are purple. or downright just moving very, very, very far left? Like right now, again, like your own journey. I met you as someone who was really progressive years ago. What's been your evolution, if any? I mean, are you moving more towards the center? Are you still kind of true to your progressive roots? Like, where do you sit right now?
Yeah, no, I think I've always been a progressive my whole life. I think I've definitely, shown some roots of having like libertarian type of ideology. But for the most part, yeah, no, I've been progressive. I just don't believe that my opinion or my thoughts or my beliefs are or should be on the forefront of my brand or of the brand. HudPost lives on its own, and James is a whole other person. So my separate life and my separate thinking outside of being the HudPost owner definitely differs from how I really feel. If this thing was right there, I definitely would have a lot more opinions about how the tax is going or how we're doing
Sure.
safety regulations. But I think I owe it to the people to show them that I'm not here to push my own ideology or push my own agenda. I think it's people need to understand, or people, I want people to understand I'm here to give them the facts, whether or not that I like what's being put out or I like the way that it's being said.
Well, certainly, I mean, when we catch up for dinner soon, I'll get to hear those views that obviously don't have the banner under you for sure. And you mentioned about, James, the editor of HudPost. But let's talk about James, the regular guy. One of the things that obviously we share in common with is we're big WWE fans, right? I know in recent years for you, not so much for me, I've been watching since childhood. It's interesting. Being a pro wrestling fan carries a certain scorn with it. Right over the years, I've dated different women, and they'll be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you watch that fake shit. What's wrong with you?" And my response has always been like, "Don't you watch the Kardashians? Don't you watch like fake shit too? Like, leave me alone. Give me a break. Like, don't you watch movie? Like, you watch Marvel movies, right? Like, that's fake as well. So why are you giving me bullshit over watching Monday Night Raw or Friday Night SmackDown or PLEs, right? Or going to events, right? I know for you, the affinity and the fandom started recently. What was your epiphany for really starting to watch pro wrestling now more regularly? Because you weren't always a fan.
No, no. Well, I would say when I was in kindergarten, first grade, I remember getting to like I moved from Jersey City to North Bergen, and all the kids rushed over to me and said, "Hey, do you want to be part of my Wolfpack Club, NWO, Red, Black, White, and Black?" So I started getting into wrestling as a young child, and I watched it all the way up until maybe fourth or fifth grade. And I believe I was talking to my cousin about it where we couldn't pinpoint it, but I believe they changed the channel or the cable of what channel wrestling was on. And when it changed over, I just said, forget about it. I don't care about it anymore. And then since fifth grade, I had not thought about wrestling, watched it, or even cared about it. And even had the same kind of thoughts about people who watch wrestling. Like, that's fake. That's weird to like. Then the Netflix special Unreal came out and showed how these wrestlers are actually going through a lot of physical pain, and there's a lot of things you can't fake. And so I started to respect the craft more. Then I started to watch Monday Night Raw. Obafemi was the first person we saw after watching Netflix Unreal, finding out that he's a fellow University of Alabama alumni. So is my wife. So, it added up. So now me and my wife watch it on a regular basis. So I don't have to worry about the women getting weirded out about it.
See, that's good, man. It's like every girlfriend I remember forever. It's been like, like, for some reason, like she'll call me on a Monday night. Like I don't pick up the phone. I'll get the text. Like the girlfriend will be like, "What the fuck are you doing? Why aren't you answering?" I'm like, "Babe, it's Monday Night Raw. Tranquila. I'll call you back at 11.
7 to 11. Oh,
yeah. I'll be like, "I'll call you back at 11. 10:30, whatever. Just déjame quieto. I'll call you back." And it's interesting because I think to your point, and obviously, it took for Unreal for you to watch that to get to that level. But for someone like me who's been a lifelong fan, the internet, documentaries, podcasts, we've seen forever, the toll, the physical toll that these men and women have to, endure for decades. I mean, again, well, shortly before his death, last year, which still bothers me to this day, the death of Hulk Hogan, you saw for years, obviously, a guy who had both hips replaced, both knees replaced. I mean, if you've ever been inside of a ring, as I have, and you take a bump on there, you're falling on wood. Like it's a small cushion of some sort of like mattress on top of wood, and you do that 3 nights a week, 20 years, bro. I hate to break it to you. The body's, Father Time's is undefeated. You're going to need surgeries. And you see women and men tearing their shoulders, blowing out their knees, concussions. I mean, it's to your point. I think you said it perfectly. You develop such a respect for the craft because of what these guys and girls are doing on a weekly. But, again, this is different than 20 years ago where they're on the road 300 times a year. This is different. There's more of an emphasis on health and wellness and making sure that these guys and girls aren't killing themselves on the road. They're not going through, unbearable pain unnecessarily. But it's also become a product like everything else, though, James, that is becoming affordable. I mean, I know you mentioned we saw each other at Son Cubano recently at a Hudson County Young Democrats event where, going to a Monday Night Raw at Prudential or Madison Square Garden or Barclays in Brooklyn is unaffordable. I mean, if you go down south, sure, you can probably watch and get a good seat for a reasonable price. I mean, case in point, last summer, for the first time ever, it was a 2-night SummerSlam, and to continue with that trend, you couldn't go to MetLife to watch this. It was almost as unaffordable as the World Cup. I know it sounds crazy to say it out loud, but that's where pro wrestling is today under the TKO banner. Obviously, they also oversee UFC. It's not just an affordable product anymore, and I think it's pricing out couples like you and your wife and families where before it's like, oh, I could take, the wife and kids to watch wrestling, and it was an enjoyable 2 hours. That's not the case anymore, man.
Well, the great thing is, I was fortunate enough to be able to be invited to see a wrestling match at White Eagle Hall, put on by Produce Wrestling out in Brooklyn. And I will say that, those are affordable shows, and they do put on a show. They are performing, they are taking risk, and there's no commercial breaks. So when you get there, you have a good time. So, wrestling's good. If you have your Netflix account and you're able to watch it, great. If you want to go see a live one, I do encourage going on that independent market and seeing the the people that are really trying to work their way up there. They will give you a show.
Yeah, listen, case in point, Saturday, I was in East Rutherford at the Meadowlands YMCA, and Pro Wrestling Magic had a show there. And I got to tell you, it's like over the years when people say to me, hey, why do you like going to pro wrestling, shows, even on the independent scene? This is where you're going to see the stars of tomorrow. I'm not even being hyperbolic. I remember years ago going to indie shows and someone seeing a 5'10" skinny white guy from, Aberdeen, Washington, named Bryan Danielson, who went on to be Daniel Bryan and obviously make history in the WWE, and other guys and girls that had, paying their dues, man. They're coming up in the system. Case in point, as I just said, you can see high school graduate Charles Gaston. I mean, this is a guy, when you look at him, he's built like a brick house. He's been making his, really an impact on the independent scene, moved out west, joined New Japan Pro Wrestling in their California circuit. Been doing a lot of indie shows. He's been on some dark matches on Ring of Honor, on All Elite Wrestling, and now, case in point, he just announced he'll be going to the tryouts at SummerSlam weekend in Minneapolis, where, hey, maybe this is where you get your NXT contract. So it's great to see this with young men and women breaking into the business. They're being smarter. Also, I think that the older wrestlers via podcasts have really given, the kids today that are training the best advice possible, what to do, what not to do. Don't shoot your load in the first 5 minutes, storytelling, pace out the match. I really find that enjoyable. To your point, Pro Wrestling Magic on this past weekend, to the show you went to at White Eagle Hall, Produce Wrestling, others, House of Glory. These are good shows, and you're paying $20, $30, and you're seeing, okay, maybe you're not seeing 30,000 people. You see 100 people, but everyone got their start somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you get to be part of that mix. The wrestlers are jumping out. We had to move the chairs for them. So you are part of the show as well. So, you're not an observer, you're part of it. So
absolutely. James, I know you're a fellow Cowboy fan as well. Good draft for us this past April. I think I talked to you last summer when I think we were texting right after the Micah Parsons trade. And I remember you asking me like, oh, what'd you think? I said, I love this trade. Why pay a guy $50 million, to play linebacker? You got some good picks out of it. Turns out to be one of them is Caleb Downs, the all-collegiate, first-team All-American safety from Ohio State. If he stays healthy, That's a safety that anchors our defense, which I think got better this year with the draft capital we got because of the Micah Parsons trade. We re-signed George Pickens. Our tight ends are developing. We drafted high, some really good kids for the offensive line. I get it. Being a Cowboy fan, it's like disappointment after disappointment. But if anything we learned this past summer from 53 years of the New York Knicks knocking out that curse, I feel there's some hope on the horizon for our Cowboys. Am I being too optimistic, man? Or what are your thoughts on the Cowboys going into the season?
It's funny. I was about to say the same thing. The Knicks gave me this newfound hope that anything is possible now. After, watching sports for about 30 years and not having any championships or lost championships, I think, feel a newfound hope. So
absolutely. I think it gives us hope as a Cowboy fan in a division that's wide open, right? I mean, the Eagles, I think, are clearly regressing. Giant fans, they blow a load in their pants every year. Oh, this is the year. And I don't know about Jackson Dart. We got Cam Scatteraboo over the weekend, this retard doing somersaults on a bad ankle. I mean, who knows? And Washington's just, what it is. But we'll see. Before I let you go, man, again, I really thank you for your time. I do hope you share it on HudPost's page, our episode. I think I appreciate it. Any article you could do, I greatly appreciate that. I appreciate your faith in my brand of opinion journalism. And again, keep up the good work there. Anything coming up here in the summer or in the fall? Because I know HudPost obviously, co-sponsors some events, not just reporting news and community things in the community, but what can we look forward to from HudPost in the summer and fall? Any events, co-sponsoring? What can we look forward to?
Yeah, I believe that in September you will be seeing a food truck festival from us in North Bergen, possibly 46th Street Park. So be on the lookout for that, possibly the first or second week of September for back to school, where we're going to try to have food trucks, vendors, performances, things like that, just to bring the community together. You will also be seeing us throwing a few live events. We've done comedy shows throughout the years. We've done hip hop shows, poetry. So be on the lookout for us to throw some pop-up events that are always happening. And then we also have a shop that I haven't told anyone yet, but if you go to hudpost.com/shop, there's some cool new merch, including a big poster of a light rail ticket, a shirt of a Burger Line bus, and another shirt that says every town in Hudson County. So, if anyone wants some cool merch for Hudson County and it's unique, go there.
Good stuff, man. Again, I can't say enough. We've had a rapport for so many years, very different places, right? As we met in journalism and as we've grown, and really happy to see you grow. Certainly with what you've been doing with HudPost, and I think we've both been growing in our own sectors. And it takes work, right? It takes work and dedication and putting the hours in. And these dark circles aren't there by accident. It's like grad school. It's working on my media brand. Same for you, right? You got to put the work in. But I do appreciate your faith in my brand of opinion journalism, coming on, discussing what's important. I really do appreciate you and taking the time here today. I'll give you the last word here tonight.
Sure. Thank you for having me on. If you are a Hudson County resident, make sure that when you do watch these podcasts, post articles, you like, share, comment. Doing the free things help us out a lot more than $1 would. So I just want to make sure that, anyone following, make sure you do that, whether you're watching Fernando's information, while you see HudPost, Hudson County View, TV, any of those, doing those small things help us a lot more than a lot of people think.
Absolutely. Well said there. Folks, he is the distinguished editor and the founder of HudPost and a fellow member of Cowboys Nation, and devoted, as I am, to the OTC. Not just the original tribal chief, right? It's the only true champion, Roman Reigns, our favorite WWE superstar. So shout out to your wife, man. I hope she's doing well. Your lovely wife. Again, hope she's readjusting, right, to live here in New Jersey. Wish you guys well. And again, keep up the good work. And we'll see you again soon here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. James, thank you so much for your time. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Have a good one, brother. Take care. Folks, good stuff there with James De Los Santos, the editor of HudPost. And for you that, again, for those of you that frequent HudPost via HudPost.com, obviously a very, well, quite frankly, a considerable evolution of where HudPost was when it started 10 years ago, and certainly to what it is now, being news centric. Obviously, in a climate, folks, where we need more news sites, where we've seen traditional print media, go by the wayside. And whether it's self-inflicted or not, whether it's the Jersey Journal, bad management there with Ron Zentlinger, whether it's the Star Ledger, having horrible, editor-in-chief from the editorial board like Tom Moran, you name it, or NorthJersey.com, the Broken Record, and horrible columnists like Charles Stile. There's no shortage, folks. But it's refreshing to know that here in Hudson County, there is a very healthy representation of news sites here in Hudson County. Obviously, HudPost with James Santos, the editor-in-chief there. Hudson County View with my good friend and a member of the Pinnacle, fellow Rutgers alumnus, John Highness there with the Hudson County View. Certainly Aaron Morrill, the editor-in-chief of the Jersey City Times. Certainly Julio Reynoso with Hudson TV, along with Steve Lennox, the owner and founder of the Tap Intos in Jersey City, Hoboken, and also in Bayonne, as well as Hoboken Girl, other great news sites here. The Patches, Hoboken Patch, we all know. Folks, there's good when there's diversity. Obviously, we have Real Talk here with Fernando Uribe Jersey First TV. There's no shortage of information. There's no shortage of getting great news sites here in Hudson County. So it's a great time to be alive if you're a journalist here in Hudson County. No shortage of information. And just a programming note there, because, again, I got to shout out to James. I really appreciate James breaking it down when it comes to free speech, because oftentimes we see that those that champion free speech aren't always about it, right? And we've seen that free speech is alive and well. We see it online all the time on social media. We see it all the time in HudPost. As I mentioned before, the examples, whether talking about community events, the news cycle, people submitting videos, and we see it all the time, folks. And let's be honest, in recent months, if not the last couple of years since the second Trump administration started, we've seen an enormous amount of coverage when it comes to ICE and ICE agents in Hudson County. And let me be very clear, because I'm sure there's plenty of retards out there that'll misconstrue what I say or cherry pick what I'm going to say. But let me be very clear, okay? As someone who worked in criminal justice for over 10 years, I understand the importance of having competent personnel. Now, do we need ICE agents to have more than 47 days of training? Absolutely. Nobody would argue that. Okay? Should they have more training? Certainly. Should ICE agents have body cams on them? Absolutely. You won't hear one argument from me on that. I'm all about transparency and accountability. Okay? But let's be honest, folks, about the way we look at ICE and federal law enforcement. For years, okay, we had national networks doing ride-alongs with ICE. Anybody remember CNN during the Obama administration? By the way, this is a reminder. Sometimes, people, have short memories here in Hudson County or in New Jersey. But between 2009 to 2017, Barack Obama deported more than 3 million people, 3 million illegals here in these United States. We had national networks like CNN doing ride-alongs with ICE agents. Okay? Literally applauding the work of ICE, deporting all these illegals. Somehow during the first Trump administration, now the second Trump administration, seems like these, selective moral outrage warriors online seem to have a problem with enforcing federal immigration law, or seems to be happening. And we see it all the time. And nothing triggers, folks, all the, the feelings over facts crowd in Hudson County. And you know what I'm talking about. There's no shortage of them. There's no shortage of, as I mentioned, the social justice clowns and the woke fools and the identity hysterics and all the ugly feminists and all the grotesque, cat ladies that we have here, that there's an abundance of them in Hudson County and New Jersey and around the country. Whether going to Delaney Hall in Newark and making asses of themselves and getting into full-blown confrontations with federal law enforcement. Like, whoever thought that's a good idea? Like, where did we go wrong where somehow we're trying to, deputize people into being confrontational with law enforcement? That's not going to work out for you. Okay? And James raised a good point about the comment section, not just on HudPost, but other social media sites. Whether it's bots or people opining from fake accounts or private accounts with no engagement, no followers, like those are the really infuriating ones. Or some of the locals who take a lot of liberties and trashing my name. I mean, folks, I mean, there's no shortage here. I mean, I got a whole list here of people that I have grievances with. And again, it's the usual malcontents, you know, right? Like the eternally single cat ladies like Ashley Blair. I mean, what an insufferable fill in the blank there with comments online. Or the usual like little beta males like Alex Trillo. You know, a little delicadito there guy in Jersey City. I mean, there's no shortage of those types. Or others like, let's be honest, you know, married men taking jabs at me. Oh, because I'm not married, I have no kids. Like, I'm sorry, for guys like Hector Segura and Justin Rivera or Adrian Medina, like marrying ugly women isn't a flex. So if you think that the jab at me about being single and not married and having no kids, if somehow that is a flex for you, I'm sorry, but marrying an ugly chick, blowing a load inside her and knocking her up and having kids, and in some cases some ugly kids, that's not a fucking flex. I hate to break it to you. So be a little more creative if you think that the biggest jab at me is making fun of my bachelor lifestyle, because I'm not suffering. Okay? So again, have a little more, you know, creativity here. You're taking jabs at me. Imagine that. Imagine marrying ugly women and thinking that's a flex. Oh, because you're married. Yeah, you can fucking have them. That's all right. I've seen what they look like. Yeah, you can have that. I'm fine over here living the happy bachelor life, okay? So, yeah. Or others that somehow preach that they're tolerant, preach that they're open-minded. It's bullshit. Whether it's the local progressives or feminists or identity hysterics, right? That'll cry and complain about my brand of opinion journalism or my comments online. Like, haven't you learned already? Like, I just love to trigger people. I love being the villain, and you fall into my trap completely every single time. The funny ones are like the ones that tend to be very, very sanctimonious. Like, really? Like, what leg do you have to stand on? Or taking jabs at my appearance. Yes, folks, I get it. I have a big head. I have a big forehead. But you know what else I have? Folks, it's a pretty face. It's a face that gets enough pussy in its lifetime. I don't got to worry about it. So if you want to make fun of my sideburns or the size of my head or my forehead, cool. Be lazy. If taking jabs at my appearance is the best you can do, cool. Have you seen my social media over the years? Have you seen the women that I date? Really? You want to take jabs at my appearance? Come on, folks, do better here. Okay? And again, I love the married men taking jabs at me. Newsflash, being married to an ugly woman is not a flex. Okay? Have a little awareness. Or others that, for some reason, take personal shots at me because I don't play ball with their brand of politics. No, folks, I engage in what's called critical thinking. And here on this show, I'll continue to be intellectually honest and philosophically consistent, which is something a lot of you struggle with. All right? And what's interesting is even like former classmates commenting on HudPost. Or local activists like useless women like Kayla Burrell. Or there's a few like obese feminists in Jersey City. I mean, really? Okay. I mean, let's be honest, for some of these women, like, they don't even have a friend named Jim, much less know what it's like to be inside of a gym. So, I mean, let's stop with that right now. Okay? The best you can do is take jabs at my appearance, cool. But you're not going to beat me in ideas. You're not going to beat me on policy. But sure, be lazy. You're not lazy running to the fridge. You're not lazy running for your next Uber Eats or Grubhub on your phone. That's cool. You're not lazy there. But running to and from the fridge to go back to your couch to binge watch a show on Netflix, that's not exercise. I hate to break it to you. Okay. So, I could take the high road here. I could try to show a little decorum on this show. And there's plenty of haters out there, whether it's in the comment section of any social media post, website, you name it. You know what? I'll be nice. I'll take the high road. Have a little poise and decorum. Sure, I'll do that. No, actually, no. For a lot of you out there that don't like Fernando Uribe and make it a point to opine often, no, you know what? I'll be nice. I'll be nice. Yeah, I'll be nice. No. Go fuck yourself. And while you're at it, go walk into traffic. Okay? I won't miss you. All right? And there's plenty of you out there that'll comment all the time about me online. Cool. Keep it coming. But I can't say it enough. You can dislike my politics. You can dislike my media brand. Folks, you're not going to outwork me. And you're certainly not going to outsmart me. But keep at it with your bullshit. Cool. I'm over here making money on my podcast. You're over there at home comiendo mierda. We're not the same. Just remember that. Once again, I want to thank James Los Santos, the editor of HudPost, founder as well, for a great 60 minutes here on the show. Really appreciate his insight into today's journalism, the political climate, and more. Folks, if you just joined us live, don't forget to watch the replay. You'll certainly enjoy my conversation, once again, with HudPost founder and editor-in-chief, James Los Santos. Folks, it's time for final thoughts. No, I know you thought that what I just said was final thoughts. No. I felt the need to give my opinion on a lot of HudPost commenters and residents in Hudson County. Okay. I've done it consistently. Speaking of clowns, there's no shortage of clowns in New Jersey, folks, whether it's in media, higher education, elected officials, activism, you name it, there's no shortage. As you can see the collage behind me, and I continue to update it regularly. I have to add a few more names in there. But folks, when we talk about bad journalism in New Jersey, you know who comes to mind a lot? Yes, you know it. That's right. Perhaps probably the least masculine cowboy you'll ever see, Maxie Prezzaro, the editor of Insider NJ. And leave it to Maxie to, as usual, virtue signal and remind us all that Trump derangement syndrome is real. And that Trump derangement syndrome doesn't seem to have a cure unless, you decide to get laid or, drink or, But it seems like Maxie Prezzaro in his latest column here is always worth a good laugh. Now, let me just preface this by saying that obviously election integrity matters. And while the national press is interesting, for years would talk about, the Trump administration wants to infringe upon free speech. Cool. Last Thursday, during a national address from the White House, some national media channels chose not to air it. Yeah, they're all for free speech, but the speech that they like. Right? And Max Prezzaro fits into this category because Max Prezzaro is another retard that, this is the reality. He likes free speech, but the speech that he likes, that's the difference. So this retard here decides to publish the following here, obviously. After Trump's speech, Mullen fires off a letter to Lieutenant Governor Caldwell. On the heels of President Trump's unsubstantiated and false claim to recycling primetime address, the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen today singled out New Jersey, saying, quote, he would use maximum pressure to ferret out any, quote, illegally cast votes in the upcoming November general election. In a statement on Friday, Mullen said he sent a letter to secretaries of state in 4 states, including New Jersey, citing preliminary review of state records. All right. I'm going to read you the letter that Secretary Mullen sent. He said, Dear Secretary Caldwell, The Department of Homeland Security is responsible for immigration enforcement and protecting election infrastructure. Both these responsibilities are critical in my mission to protect the homeland, and I am writing to make you aware of concerning results of a recent analysis of New Jersey's publicly available voter registration database. Preliminary records review of the records revealed that there may be as many as 35,152 non-citizens registered to vote in New Jersey. As an example, we found 19,497 New Jersey registrants for whom the name, date of birth, address, and social security number matching non-citizen in our files. The most efficient way to ensure the accuracy of our findings is to work collaboratively on identity verification. I hope that you share in the commitment to ensure that only U.S. citizens participate in our federal elections. Allowing just one non-citizen to vote cancels the vote of one U.S. citizen. He's right on that. States are responsible for voter registration, and the federal government is responsible for maintaining immigration records to enable verification of citizenship. Working together, we can more effectively protect U.S. elections. Okay. Now, folks, what's interesting, obviously, the findings that Secretary Mullen is referring to is a new election integrity task force that discovered that hundreds of non-citizens were registered to vote on the analysis of public records requests submitted in conjunction with the RNC to all of New Jersey's 21 counties. Now, what's interesting, and Chairwoman Christine Hanlon, the NJGOP chair, mentioned something interesting, and it's true. One key vulnerability cited stems from the voter registration process conducted through the New Jersey Motor Vehicle Commission, the NJMVC. Non-citizens can legally obtain New Jersey driver's licenses. What a fucking shitty decision that was. And many are also eligible to legally obtain social security numbers. Individuals who may be legally present in the United States but not eligible to vote may nevertheless become registered through the NJMVC integrated system because of insufficient citizenship verification safeguards. Fraudulent participation at the polls isn't encouraged for anyone on active roster rolls through mandatory official elections communications like a sample ballot and other campaign materials from candidates. Folks, that's true. That's not partisan. That's not some right-wing or conservative or Republican talking about. That's true. That is one of the vulnerabilities in our voter registration system. Specifically, it comes to the MVC. And when the legislature decided to give driver's licenses to illegals, that became a reality. You mean to tell me that people aren't getting registered to vote? And when they show up on the voter rolls, when it comes to like targeting for voter demographics, that's not going to become an issue? But wait, folks, leave it to Max Pizarro to omit that from his bullshit column. I'm not going to read you the whole thing here. I just read you a little bit here. Okay. Here's what's interesting. Accuracy, right? Maxie finishes. Mullen spent much of the press conference exploring the possibility that non-citizens might vote in New Jersey, even though studies have found instances are incredibly rare. That's not true, Max. That's just not true. But leave it to Max Pizarro to be lazy, right? And of course, who does he mention or reference? The left-leaning Brennan Center for Justice found 30 instances of non-citizen voting out of 23.5 million votes as it's reviewed in the 2016 election. Meanwhile, the Conservative Heritage Foundation found just 24 instances of non-citizen voting over the 20-year period between 2003 and 2023. I find it interesting for Max Pizarro to start citing facts because it concerns me because it makes me think, wait a minute, so Max Pizarro's working? Because we all know Max Pizarro's a lazy motherfucker. This guy doesn't fucking work. He sits at home, scratches his ass, scratches his nuts, maybe not in that order. But we're expecting journalists to actually do some work, to like leave their house, which I was surprised because we all know a few weeks ago, Max Pizarro traveled to State Senator Troy Singleton's house, or I'm sorry, his office, to do like a 20-minute interview, which nobody saw, by the way. I think if that's 10 views, that's a lot. So I was surprised. I'm like, this lazy motherfucker actually did work? Que milagro, porque eso no sirve para nada. But here's the reality, folks. The vulnerabilities that exist in our voter registration system in New Jersey are real. Again, I can't reiterate this enough. Giving illegal driver's licenses opened up this Pandora's box. And unfortunately, we can't put the genie back in the bottle. But you would think Max Pizarro would want to explore that. You would think Max Pizarro will want to investigate that. No, of course not. Of course, that will require Max Pizarro, wait for it, to have what's called, it's a big 4-syllable word. I know he struggles with a lot of words. Integrity. We all know Max Pizarro. He doesn't have any. And that's why we continue to see bullshit columns like this from Max Pizarro, when we really should be exploring that non-citizens are voting. And it's true, one non-citizen voting negates me, who is a citizen. And Max Pizarro doesn't care about that. He'd rather pontificate, he'd rather bloviate, and sit there on his sanctimonious porch instead of doing real journalism and doing real work. That's the difference between Max Pizarro and Fernando Uribe. Over here, we do what's called work. I know that's a lot for you to process, Maxi. So when you're not playing dress up looking like the least masculine cowboy I've ever seen, maybe you should start doing some work. I know it's July, you know, it's a downtime in the summer. Maybe a lot of people aren't working. Well, you don't work all year. So that's par for the course for Maxi. But folks, this week's column is just another example of lazy journalism from Max Pizarro. But what else is new from this lazy bastard? Continuing on, and I'm going to enjoy this one. Oh, baby. Folks, Hudson County Prosecutor's Office reported last week the arrest of Frank Alonso. Oh, what joy it gives me to see this guy and knowing that there's a mugshot of this guy. First of all, es un mentiroso. 59, motherfucker, you look 79. Let's be honest about that. Okay? You're not fooling anybody. Check that man's birth certificate. Okay? Es un mentiroso. Okay? 59. Please, la hueva mía. 59. Maybe 59 cada hueva. I don't know about that one. But folks, Frank Alonso, let me just look at the notes here again, just to be sure. Frank Alonso, again, first reported by the New Jersey Globe. And again, shout out to my good friend, David Wallstein, the distinguished editor of the New Jersey Globe, for reporting on this. But former Hudson County Superintendent of Weights and Measures was arrested and accused of stealing over $250,000 from the county. Let me just read you the official arrest charges here. Alonso faces charges of official misconduct, a pattern of official misconduct, and 2 counts of theft by unlawful taking. He also faces charges of third-degree theft for using checks without the account holder's authorization for personal gain. Now, between January 2024 and January 2026, Alonso allegedly diverted funds intended for the Hudson Regional Health Commission, the Office of Weights and Measures, and the New Jersey Weights and Measures Association into accounts for personal use. Alonso was fired in January of this year after Hudson County Executive Craig Guy first became aware of allegations of malfeasance. Guy turned evidence over to the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office. In October 2025, Hudson County moved the Weights and Measures Department from the Sheriff's Office to the Law Department that followed the defeat of longtime Sheriff Francis Scolari in the Democrat primary after Scolari switched to the Republican Party last year. The former Union City GOP municipal chairman and an ally of North Bergen Mayor Nicholas Sacco, Alonso sought the Democrat nomination for state assembly in 2025 on a ticket with Scolari and former North Bergen school board member and slumlord Tony Hector. You know, the guy that owns all these buildings but doesn't fix them because he's a fucking slumlord and he's a descarado. Yeah, Tony Hector, that Tony Hector. Right? Alonso's campaign website identified him as a government ethics watchdog, lost in a landslide to Democrats backed by State Senator Brian Stack, along with his assembly candidates, Gabriel Rodriguez and Larry Weinstein. The allegations revive memories of one of Hudson County's most enduring political stories, alleging that Islam made the Office of Weights and Measures synonymous with patronage and political folklore. Bueno, folks. I don't know if you knew, breaking news here. I'm going to break it here first. You know what Frank Alonso's favorite color is? Orange. Because he better get used to the color orange. He's going to be wearing orange. And for a guy like Frank Alonso, who talked a lot of shit about my podcast last year, that nobody watches me, that nobody tunes in, folks, I think if you follow my social media, you know the traffic, you know the numbers. Okay. Unlike Mickey Mouse candidates like this and Mickey Mouse journalists that cover him and enable him like Leonard Filipowski, folks, on this show, it's real traffic because it's real journalism, because it's real talk. So do me a favor, folks. I mean, I'll do my own Oprah or I'll do my own research, but el día that this guy gets sentenced, trust me when I tell you, I will be sitting in court when they haul this guy away to jail. I'll be like, Frankie, cuídate. All right? Que mentiroso, 59 years old. Motherfucker, look like you're 79. Get out of here, 59. He's a liar, he's a cheat, and he's a criminal. Good riddance, Frankie. Enjoy jail and be careful with the soap in the shower and be careful during breakfast time. You never know. You might be making some new friends in general population. So you know what, Frankie? See you later, brother. And enjoy jail because you deserve it. You deserve every minute of jail. You deserve every single day in there. You took an oath in a public trust. And what did you do? You stole over almost $250,000 for personal gain. For what? And now I'm reading breaking news, again, as reported by John Hines with the Hudson County View, that now the Hudson County Commissioners are going to be looking to recoup some of that money. Well, good. Bankrupt this guy. Un ladrón, un mentiroso, un tramposo. That's what Frank Alonso is. So enjoy jail, Frankie, and I'm going to laugh. Oh, I'm going to smile. Pa toda la mierda you want to talk about Fernando Uribe, enjoy prison. And on behalf of Fernando Uribe fans everywhere, folks, no better way to describe Frank Alonso than...
No. You're still a loser. Clown show. Say it with me, Mike. Clown show. Clown show. Clown show. Clown show. Clown show. It's a clown show.
Yes, folks, enjoy jail, Frankie. Maybe we'll see it in 20 years. But then again, like if you're 79, well, maybe you'll live to be 99. Who knows? Good riddance to Frank Alonso. And I couldn't be happier. And those are my final thoughts. Folks, again, whether it's Frank Alonso, Max Pizarro, there's no shortage of garbage humans in Hudson County and New Jersey. I'll continue shitting on them because it's fun, but it's also factual. That's what we do here on Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. Folks, a special comment here tonight. I just want to say thank you to the staff at the Jacob Javits Center, Jill, who worked outside for security, the great men and women in customer service there helping out upon arriving. Folks, what an incredible experience at Fanatics Fest NYC this past week, and actually this past 4 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, in Midtown New York City, whether it's meeting pro wrestlers, meeting retired athletes, current athletes, talent competitions, you name it, folks. There was no shortage of fun things to do this past weekend at Fanatics Fest. Got to meet one of my favorite pro wrestlers, LA Knight. That's right. Yeah. Got to meet him. Certainly got to be able to walk around, check out some collectibles, some merch, check out WWE experience there. Obviously, the ESPN experience, all great stuff. Also got to see some of my favorite online personalities from WFAN. That's right, folks. Christopher McMonagle, the co-host of The Carton Show on WFAN during the afternoon drive, one of the nicest guys. And even though he's a shill for the New York Yankees and Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman and Hal Steinbrenner, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. I might called in before to give Chris McMonagle a hard time, but a stand-up guy, a gentleman, great to talk to, and a gentleman just taking a picture with one of his fans. Shout out to Chris McMonagle, C-Mac from WFAN, And also, obviously, not only had the privilege of meeting Chris McMonagle, but I also had a chance to meet the generational talent, Tommy Lugar from WFA. And so from one generational talent to the other, it was a privilege to meet Tommy Lugar, positive Tommy, great conversation with him, love his work, love everybody at WFAN. Really great experience this past weekend at Fanatics Fest. Certainly there during the FIFA World Cup, obviously representing the Tribal Chief, and of course representing our world champions, La Furia Roja, España, this year's winner of the 2026 World Cup. Obviously, great experience there at the FIFA Fan Fest at the Javits Center. And of course, well, I think you all know how I feel about Chiquitín. Good riddance to Lionel Messi. Happy retirement, and I hope we never get to see you again. And great win by Team España. Also, folks, I want to send a shout out to Kara and the great staff at Birch in downtown Hoboken, one of the best nightlife spots in Hoboken, folks, for any experience on a Saturday night, whether it's girls' night, guys' night out, whether you're going out on date night, whatever it is you're doing, folks, Birch in downtown Hoboken is a wonderful nightlife destination. Shout out there to my boys there, members of the Pinnacle representing the Four Horsemen. As they say, you know how it is, folks, late nights, parties, kissing the girls, and making them cry. Yes. Paying homage to our favorite superstar, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. Woo! But in all seriousness, folks, shout out to Kara, the management, and the staff at Birch who make our experience there every so bit enjoyable. Shout out to Trinity and the great bartenders there at Birch in downtown Hoboken. Again, ladies and gentlemen, a wonderful nightlife experience in the Mouse Square City. Not just every Saturday night, but any night of the week, folks. Make sure you check out Birch in downtown Hoboken. And that's our show for this week, folks. Once again, I want to thank James Los Santos, the founder and editor of HudPost, for a great conversation today. Make sure you check us out on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and X. Also, follow us on YouTube. And don't forget to check us out on Spotify or SoundCloud. That's right, folks. We do that every single week here on Real Talk. And of course, bringing you fearless independent journalism. That's right. That's what we do every single week here on Jersey First TV. Check out brand new episodes of Real Talk every Monday. Here, of course, check out local listings, of course, for start times. And check out brand new episodes of Bridging the Gap every Thursday with Zachary Dora and Tyler Simpson. These two great young men, folks. Two guys to watch out for. Opinion journalism, great stuff that they do every week on Bridging the Gap. Of course, folks, we're always talking about the issues that matter the most to you. That's what we do best. The leaders in independent media here in New Jersey. It's always Jersey First TV. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's Real Talk. 6 years and counting here on the Jersey First Television Network. Always remember, folks, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's the best analysis and commentary about everything going on. We bring it to you every week here on Real Talk. You're the Jersey First Television Network. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I am the generational talent in Garden State Media, and certainly your leader for trustworthy opinion journalism. That's right, folks. It's me, Fernando Uribe, representing La Furia Roja. Congratulations to España, La Sangre, here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Folks, please party responsibly. And I'll see you next week here as my guest will be Hudson County Young Democrats President Matt Hayden. Joins us live next week, next Monday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Folks, enjoy the rest of your week. Please party responsibly. And by the way, you know what else is in my blood? Colombia. Happy Independence Day to all my fellow Colombians out there today. Feliz Independencia para Colombia. Now and always. Shout out to everybody there. Back home, family in Colombia, of course, here. Happy Independence Day para la Gran República de Colombia. So again, folks, enjoy Colombian Independence Day festivals all throughout this week and weekend. Please party responsibly, and we'll see you next week here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Again, thanks for stopping by. Always remember, stay classy, everyone.